Isaiah chapter 29. The Siege of Jerusalem. O Ariel, Ariel, the city where David encamped, add year to year. Let the feasts run their round. Yet I will distress Ariel, and there shall be mourning and lamentation, and she shall be to me like an Ariel. And I will encamp against you round about, and will besiege you with towers, and I will raise siege works against you. Then deep from the earth you shall speak, from low in the dust your words shall come. Your voice shall come from the ground like the voice of a ghost, and your speech shall whisper out of the dust. But the multitude of your foes shall be like small dust, and the multitude of the ruthless like passing chaff. And in an instant, suddenly, you will be visited by the Lord of hosts, with thunder and with earthquake, and great noise, with whirlwind and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel, all that fight against her and her stronghold, and distress her, shall be like a dream, a vision of the night. As when a hungry man dreams he is eating, and awakes with his hunger not satisfied. Or as when a thirsty man dreams he is drinking, and awakes faint, with his thirst not quenched. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. Stupefy yourselves, and be in a stupor. Blind yourselves, and be blind. Be drunk, but not with wine. Stagger, but not with strong drink. For the Lord has poured out upon you a spirit of deep sleep, and has closed your eyes, the prophets, and covered your heads, the seers. And the vision of all this has become to you like the words of a book that is sealed, when men give it to one who can read, saying, "Read this." He says, "I cannot, for it is sealed." And when they give the book to one who cannot read, saying, "Read this," he says, "I cannot read." And the Lord said, "Because this people draw near with their mouth, and honor me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment of men, learned by rote. Therefore, behold, I will again do marvelous things with this people, wonderful and marvelous, and the wisdom of the wise men shall perish, and the discernment of their discerning men shall be hid. Woe to those who hide deep from the Lord their counsel, whose deeds are in the dark, and who say, "Who sees us? Who knows us?" You turn things upside down. Shall the potter be regarded as the clay, that the thing made should say to its maker, "He did not make me," or the thing formed say to him, "Who formed it?" He has no understanding. Hope for the future. Is it not yet a very little while until Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be regarded as a forest? In that day the deaf shall hear the words of a book, and out of their gloom and darkness the eyes of the blind shall see. The meek shall obtain fresh joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall exult in the Lord, Holy One of Israel. For the ruthless shall come to naught, and the scoffer cease, and all who watch to do evil shall be cut off, who by a word make a man out of to be an offender, and lay a snare for him who reproves in the gate, and with an empty plea turn aside him who is in the right. Therefore, thus says the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall no more be ashamed, no more shall his face grow pale. For when he sees his children, the work of my hands in his midst, they will sanctify my name. They will sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and will stand in awe of the God of Israel. And those who err in spirit will come to understanding, and those who murmur will accept instruction. Isaiah chapter 30. The futility of reliance on Egypt. Woe to the rebellious children, says the Lord, who carry out a plan but not mine, and who make a league but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, who set out to go down to Egypt without asking for my counsel, to take refuge in the protection of Pharaoh, and to seek shelter in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the protection of Pharaoh turn to your shame, and the shelter in the shadow of Egypt to your humiliation. For though his officials are at Zoan, and his envoys reach Hanes, everyone comes to shame through a people that cannot profit them, that brings neither help nor profit, but shame and disgrace. An oracle on the beasts of the Negev, through a land of trouble and anguish, from where come the lioness and the lion, the whipper and the flying serpent. They carry their riches on the backs of the asses, and their treasures on the humps of camels, to a people that cannot profit them. For Egypt's help is worthless and empty. Therefore, I have called her Rahab, who sits still. A rebellious people. And now go. Write it before them on a tablet, and inscribe it in a book, that it may be for the time to come as a witness forever. For those, they are a rebellious people, lying sons who will not hear the instruction of the Lord, who say to the seers, see not, and the prophets, prophesy not to us what is right, speak to us smooth things, prophesy illusions, leave the way, turn aside from the path. Let us hear no more of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, thus says the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, because you despise this word and trust in oppression and perverseness, and rely on them. Therefore, this iniquity shall be to you like a break in a high wall, bulging out and about to collapse, whose crash comes suddenly in an instant, and its breaking is like that of a potter's vessel, which is smashed so ruthlessly that among its fragments not a sherd is found, with which to take the fire from the hearth, or to dip up water out of the cistern. For thus says the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest, you shall be saved in quietness, and in trust shall be your strength. And you would not, but you said, no. We will speed upon horses. Therefore, you shall speed away, and we will ride upon swift steeds. Therefore, your pursuers shall be swift. 1,000 shall flee at the threat of one. At the threat of 5 you shall flee till you are left, like a flagstaff on the top of the mountain, like a signal on a hill. God's promise to Zion. Therefore, says the Lord, waits to be gracious to you. Therefore, he exalts himself to show mercy to you, for the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for him. O people in Zion, who dwell at Jerusalem, you shall weep no more. He will surely be gracious to you at the sound of your cry. When he hears it, he will answer you. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet your teacher will not hide himself anymore, but your eyes shall see your teacher, and your ears shall hear a word behind you, saying, this is the way, walk in it. When you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, then you will defile your silver-covered graven images and your gold-plated molten images. You will scatter them as unclean things. You will say to them, begone. And he will give rain to the seeds with which you sow the ground, and the grain, the produce of the ground, which will be rich and plenteous. In that day, your cattle will graze in large pastures, and the oxen and the asses that till the ground will eat salted provender, which has been winnowed with shovel and fork. And upon every lofty mountain and every high hill there will be brooks running with water, in the day of the great slaughter, when the towers fall. Moreover, the light of the moon will be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun will be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day when the Lord binds up the hurt of his people and heals the wounds inflicted by his blow. Judgment on Assyria. Behold, the name of the Lord comes from far, burning with his anger and in thick rising smoke. His lips are full of indignation, and his tongue is like a devouring fire. His breath is like an overflowing stream that reaches up to the neck, to sift the nations with the sieve of destruction, and to place on the jaws of the people a bridle that leads astray. You shall have a song as in that night when a holy feast is kept, and gladness of heart as when one sets out to the sound of the flute, to go to the mountain of the Lord, to the rock of Israel. And the Lord will cause his majestic voice to be heard, and the descending blow of his arm to be seen, in furious anger and a flame of devouring fire, with a cloudburst and tempest and hailstones. The Assyrians will be terror-stricken at the voice of the Lord when he smites with his rod. And every stroke of the staff of punishment which the Lord lays upon him will be to the sound of timbrels and lyres. Battling with brandished arm, he will fight with them. For a burning place has long been prepared. For the king it is made ready, its pyre made deep and wide, with fire and wood in abundance. The breath of the Lord, like a stream of brimstone, kindles it. Isaiah chapter 31. Alliance with Egypt is futile. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help, and rely on horses, who trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But do not look to the Holy One of Israel or consult the Lord. And yet he is wise and brings disaster. He does not call back his words, but will arise against the Lord of the evildoers and against the helpers of those who work iniquity. The Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses are flesh and not spirit. When the Lord stretches out his hand, the helper will stumble, and he who is helped will fall, and they will all perish together. For thus the Lord said to me, as a lion or a young lion growls over his prey, and when a band of shepherds is called forth against him, is not terrified, but they are shouting or daunted at their noise. So the Lord of hosts will come down to fight upon Mount Zion and upon its hill. Like birds hovering, so the Lord of hosts will protect Jerusalem. He will protect and deliver it. He will spare and rescue it. Turn to him from whom you have deeply revolted, O people of Israel. For in that day every one shall cast away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which your hands have sinfully made for you. And the Assyrian shall fall by a sword, not a man, and a sword not a man shall devour him. And he shall flee from the sword, and his young men shall be put to be forced labor. His rock shall pass away in terror, and his officers desert the standard in panic, says the Lord, whose fire is in Zion and whose furnace is in Jerusalem.